Daniel and Stella were students at University of Sydney in Australia. They lived in the same neighborhood and often saw each other every morning on the way to university. At first, they were just strangers. Sometimes their eyes met for a few seconds, and both of them quickly looked away with shy smiles. Days passed like this. One morning, Daniel entered his new class and was surprised to see Stella sitting near the window. They had the same subjects and the same schedule. Slowly, they started talking. First, it was simple greetings, then small conversations, then long talks after class. Very soon, they became best friends. Every day, they traveled together to university. They drank coffee together, studied together in the library, and spent hours walking around the streets of Sydney after classes. Daniel loved how Stella laughed at his stupid jokes, and Stella felt safe whenever Daniel was near her. After some time, friendship turned into love. A few years later, they got married. Their life was beautiful. They moved into a small house together. Every morning felt peaceful. They cooked together, watched movies late at night, and dreamed about their future. Everyone around them said they were the perfect couple. But happiness slowly started changing. 5 years passed after their marriage, then 6, then 7. Still, they had no child. At first, they tried to ignore it. They told themselves everything would happen at the right time, but slowly the silence inside their house became painful. Family members started asking questions. Friends around them had children, while Daniel and Stella returned every night to an empty home. Stella often cried quietly at night when Daniel was asleep. Daniel tried to stay strong, but deep inside, he was also broken. They visited doctors, they tried medicines, they prayed, they waited, but nothing changed. One cold evening, Daniel and Stella went out for dinner after work. The weather was strange that night. Dark clouds covered the sky, and the roads were almost empty. While driving back home, Daniel stopped the car near a small roadside shop because Stella wanted water. That was when they saw him. A strange old man was standing near the road under a broken streetlight. His clothes looked dirty and old. His face was pale, and his eyes looked deeply tired, almost lifeless. But the creepiest thing was his smile. He looked directly at Stella and said in a slow voice, "You both are suffering because you want a child." Daniel and Stella froze. They never told anyone about their pain. Daniel tried to ignore the man and started walking back to the car, but the old man spoke again. "In Mount Wilson, there is a place where wishes come true." Daniel stopped walking. The old man slowly stepped closer. "If you truly want a child, go there." Stella looked nervous. Daniel asked quietly, "What place?" The old man smiled again. "You will find someone there, someone who can give you what you want." Before they could ask anything else, a truck passed by the road for a second, and when Daniel looked back, the old man was gone, completely gone. Daniel and Stella quickly drove home without speaking much. That night, neither of them could sleep. Daniel kept saying it was probably just a crazy man trying to scare people, but Stella could not stop thinking about his words. What if he was telling the truth? She whispered. Daniel stayed silent. A week later, Stella finally spoke again about Mount Wilson. "Our marriage has been suffering for years," she said softly. "What if this is our last chance?" Daniel did not believe in strange things, but seeing Stella heartbroken every day was becoming unbearable. Finally, he agreed. The next morning, both of them took leave from work and started their journey toward Mount Wilson. As they left Sydney behind, the roads became quieter. The city noise disappeared. Tall trees surrounded the road from both sides. Thick forest covered the mountains. The deeper they drove, the stranger the place felt. Their phone signals stopped working. The road became narrow and empty. Hours passed. Then suddenly Daniel realized They were lost. The GPS stopped moving. The forest around them looked dark, even though it was daytime. A cold wind moved through the trees. Stella looked nervous. Maybe we should go back. But before Daniel could answer, they noticed someone standing near the road. A woman. She wore old black clothes and stood completely still beside the forest. Daniel slowly stopped the car. He rolled down the window and asked, "Excuse me, do you know the way to Mount Wilson? We are looking for someone, some spiritual man." The woman's face suddenly changed. Fear appeared in her eyes. "You should leave," she said immediately. Her voice sounded shaky. "Go back home before it is too late." Daniel looked confused. "What do you mean?" The woman stepped closer to the car. "If you go there, your life will be destroyed." Stella felt chills run through her body, but Daniel thought the woman was simply crazy. He asked again, "Can you just tell us the road?" For a few seconds, the woman stayed silent. Then she slowly pointed toward a narrow road hidden between the trees. "If you truly want to ruin your lives," she whispered, "take that road." Daniel thanked her and drove away. But Stella looked back through the mirror. The woman was still standing there, watching them, not moving at all. The road led them to a small village deep inside the mountains. The village looked dead. Old wooden houses stood quietly under the gray sky. Very few people were outside, and those who were stared strangely at Daniel and Stella as if outsiders were not welcome there. After asking around, they finally found the man they were searching for. The shaman lived alone in a small wooden house near the forest. Animal bones hung outside the entrance. Strange symbols were painted on the walls. The air around the house smelled strange and rotten. Daniel felt uncomfortable immediately, but Stella held his hand tightly. They entered the house. Inside, candles burned in every corner. The room was dark. Shelves were filled with jars containing dead insects, black feathers, and horrifying things Daniel could not even recognize. Then the shaman appeared. He was an old woman with long gray hair and dark eyes. She looked at them for a long time without speaking. Finally, she asked, "What do you want?" Stella spoke first. "We want a child." The shaman slowly smiled. "You can have one." Daniel and Stella looked at each other in shock. "But," the shaman continued, "every wish has a price." The room suddenly felt colder. "What price?" Daniel asked carefully. The shaman stared directly into Stella's eyes. "When your first child is born, that child will belong to us." Silence filled the room. The shaman continued speaking calmly. "We will raise the child here. We will teach the child the old ways, black magic, dark rituals, ancient knowledge." Stella looked terrified. Daniel immediately stood up. "That's insane." But the shaman did not react. "You came here because pain forced you here," he said softly. "Now choose." Stella started crying quietly. Years of sadness, loneliness, and broken hope filled her mind. Finally, she looked at Daniel. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, then slowly, he agreed. The shaman smiled. "Your wish will come true." 1 year later, Stella gave birth to a baby boy. Their happiness returned instantly. The house finally felt alive. The baby's laughter filled every room. Daniel carried him everywhere proudly, while Stella stayed close to him every second as if she was afraid someone would take him away. For the first 2 months, everything felt perfect. But then, one night, Stella remembered the promise. She looked at Daniel while holding the baby. "We promised them," she whispered nervously. "We promised the shaman our first child." Daniel became angry immediately. "No," he said firmly. "This is our son." "But what if they come for him?" "They can't do anything," Daniel replied. "These people are frauds. Black magic is not real." Stella wanted to believe him. She truly wanted to believe him. That night, they finally fell asleep after hours of arguing, but sometime after midnight. Stella suddenly woke up. The room felt freezing cold. The baby monitor made a strange, crackling sound. Then Stella slowly turned her head toward the window, and her heart almost stopped. Outside the window, standing silently in the darkness, was the same shaman from the Mount Wilson, staring directly at her. We work very hard to create these stories for you. We spend hours researching, collecting information from different people, writing scripts, and editing everything carefully to make the story as realistic and creepy as possible. So if you enjoyed this story, please support us by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. And if you want part 2 of this story, let's hit 1,000 likes, and we'll bring the next terrifying chapter very soon.